but estheticians typically hate the sun. They've got this big vendetta against the sun. I've heard crazy advice, even like worse SPF indoors and all kinds of stuff. Like, what's your relationship with the sun? Caring about skin health and all of that stuff, but also being, it sounds like a bit of a sun worshiper.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not a sun worshiper. I do think time in the sun does matter for
Yeah.
aging purposes. I don't think it's bad if your body and your skin is used to being out in the sun. You can, frolic for an hour, 2 hours, go surfing, whatever you want to do, because your skin has built up that natural
Hmm.
tolerance, and it's not going to be affected. Obviously, removing things like seed oils and
Hmm.
really giving your body that slow process of introducing the sun. I'm not talking about going out and baking in it when I do
Yes.
speak about the sun. I can't stand when people fear the sun. I can't stand it. I think it's the silliest thing ever. I mean, again, one of those things that kind of clicked for me with Paul, with the logic part, was his sun take. And it was something that made sense when you talk about like plants and how we, animals, that they actually are drawn to the sun, they thrive in the sun, they actually go towards it. Like, oh yeah, that does make sense. And then I gave it a chance during the AB30 challenge, was in the summer when I took it, and I did like a test on my own skin. I was never big on wearing body sunscreen ever, to be
Hmm.
honest. That was just like my, I don't know, instinct. And I'm Irish, so I don't know what I was thinking, but I just never really did. I think it's because I never really liked to lay out in the sun for long periods of time, so I never really
Hmm.
worried about it. It was like, oh, I can only really tolerate 15 minutes where I get uncomfortable and I'm sweating and I need to get up anyway. So I never did that, but I did wear it on my face and chest and neck, and always protected those areas. But I know that I went out into the sun during the AB30 challenge. So obviously no seed oils, nothing like that. And I was slowly building up, and I would go out at like 11 or 12. I'd lay out for 10, then I'd lay out for 15, 20, built up to 20. I mean, I had the most golden tan,
Hmm.
never had a sunburn, felt great. Sleep was incredible. And that for me, cause I always like to test things out on myself before I really talk about them. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, you guys, the sun thing is crazy that we're all worried about it, and stop worrying about SPF that is chemical SPF. Sure, we use products and stuff that can make our skin more sun sensitive. So you want to be careful as a woman that's using, skincare products, or if you're doing treatments and stuff, being out in the sun just blasting your face. You got to be careful. That stuff can, create hyperpigmentation and
Yeah.
aging over time if you're doing it irresponsibly. But if you go out and get sun directly on your eyes first thing in the morning, you can be out there for an hour. 10,
Right.
11,
Right.
like you do not have to worry about any damage to your skin with that. That is going straight into your body. It's literally feeding your cells, balancing everything. So that part is where we all have it completely backwards. And also during like sunset and the later days, or I'm sorry,
Yeah.
the later time of the day, it's not harmful sun. During like the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, when you're getting blasted, and let's say you're out there gardening or something, yeah, you want to like cover up. You don't even need SPF necessarily. If you could just
Yeah.
cover up, like you have
Exactly.
those big hats, you just wear different, long sleeves, something like that. If you're worried about, getting too much, you don't want a farmer's tan or something like that. But it's really not what we were told and taught for so long. And again,
Right.
those things that just made sense, where I'm like, this isn't causing damage. It's the food that we're eating and the oxidative stress that is the problem. It's not the sun itself. And again, going back to just the ancestors. Your
That's right.
ancestors didn't have SPF. And guess what? They weren't riddled with skin cancer. Do you know? And people are going to argue that all day long. Oh, they only lived till 30. Also, something I don't believe. I'm like,
No.
okay. Oh, you lived through it. I forget. That was somebody that you knew that lived till 30. That was a caveman. Because I would love to know how you know this for a fact. But anyway,
Yes. Exactly.
yeah. So it's logic to me that just was
Right.
like, okay, the sun is not our enemy. You can do it responsibly. You can do it,
Yeah.
where it's beneficial to your health. And I think when people are dealing with illness, especially,
Mm.
get out in the sun. That is where you're going to get better. That vitamin D is something that you cannot get through synthetic,
Hmm.
supplements. Like you have to go out there and get it. And I have a lot of people that are either in Europe or like places like Seattle where they don't get a lot of sun, and red light is a good,
Yeah.
comparison, I guess, to that. It's still not the same, but at least you get something. So that's my only like suggestion. If you can't get into the sun, that's what you do. But yeah, sun is vilified, and I'm so over it, and I'm here
Yeah.
to like stop it. Yeah. Especially in the
Yeah.
skincare and beauty world. Like go get sun, you'll have better skin.
Yeah. Right. Shocker. It's
Yeah.
beautifully intuitive. And it is a dose makes the poison thing, right? If you go out there and blast it, like what commonly happens and why the sun gets demonized, I spoke to a PhD researcher about this who specializes in this. She said there is evidence that chronic burning of the skin can lead to
Oh,
skin
yeah.
cancer later in
What's
life,
your
but that's
yeah.
irresponsible use. She made the case that it was like, I'm English Irish skin, very pale. Like if I have been in the dead of winter in my house all winter, then I fly to Cancun and I sit out from the hours of like 12 to 3 and don't expect to get sunburned, it's foolish. But like you said,
Yes.
it's those early where the UV index is low, where you can build a solar callus, where you actually prime your body to produce more
Mhm.
melanin so it mitigates the chance. Take the sunglasses off and then go back to this kind of ancestral wisdom where maybe ask, what would our ancestors have done? Well, they've probably been busy hunting or foraging in the earliest hour of the day when it was cool. And at 2, 3 o'clock when it's blitzing hot, they're not going to be lying down on a lounger somewhere. They're going to be in
Yeah.
under the trees in a hammock, doing whatever they did. So it's just a bit backward sometimes as to why as well the sun gets demonized. It's because a bunch of irresponsible sun users jump off in the middle of winter, burn themselves, and then 10 years later have a diagnosis or they have skin damage. And it's like, well, yeah, kind of, but you used it irresponsibly. If you use the sun as medicine, which it can be, it's incredibly healing. All right, friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Radical Health Radio. We got a fresh new podcast for you every Wednesday. If you enjoyed the show, consider liking, subscribing, reviewing, and rating us on your podcast platform. It helps to spread this message of radical health. We'll see you next week.